In this video, I'm going to continue my commentary on Henry Ward Beecher and his sermons by covering the topic of self-control. Now, what is self-control? Well, before I get into the topic itself, what I'd like to say is there are some good churches in the world and some bad churches in the world. And you really need to know the difference between the two of them. And this kind of a topic can clearly illustrate whether you're attending a good church or a bad church. Let me explain. Self-control is an unpopular topic in some churches, yet Paul discussed it in the letters that he wrote. Why is self-control such an unpopular topic? Because some churches devote more time discussing what God can give to you and not what you should give to God. This is very much a sign that the church you're attending is probably a bad church. But it's not the only one. In a previous video, I discussed the parable of the Good Samaritan. Okay, now let me tell you how this one worked. There is a big difference between saying, "I'll pray for you," and "I'll pray with you." What's the difference? Take a look at the priest in the parable of the Good Samaritan. He looks at this injured man, and he tells the injured man, "I'll pray for you." Well, let me translate that for you. What he was saying was, what this priest was saying to this injured man was, "You, the injured man, are an inconvenience to me. So I'm going to continue on my way, and further down the road, if I feel the slightest bit guilty, I'll offer up a prayer for you." Well, by that time, the injured man probably wouldn't need his prayers. Get the meaning? So if you are discussing Christianity with somebody, say a professed Christian, and you tell them, "Hey, look, I need you to pray with me about a particular topic," and that person says to you, "I'll pray for you," recognize that as a brush-off. Walk away from that person and have nothing further to do with them. Okay? And the reason I say that is because that particular person, though they profess Christianity, do not have your best interest at heart. How do I prove this? Because of what Jesus said. Jesus said, "If two or more people pray together in my name, I will answer them." God likes harmony, and that's not harmony. See the difference? Okay. Now, who practices self-control? Well, certainly ancient gladiators did. Even modern-day football players do. Military men do. And even entrepreneurs. Some of them practice self-control all of their lives. But there are some that only practice it long enough to achieve a particular goal. Once they get to that goal, they throw self-control out the window. They start consuming bad food and alcohol and all kinds of other stuff. They practically wreck their lives over it. Some of them really do wreck their lives over it. And for what? A little extra money? Sometimes they only demonstrate that self-control for this. Or maybe a trophy or a laurel wreath. Something tangible that can corrode and decay over a long period of time. Was it really worth it? Oh, I had enough self-control to get this mighty big ribbon. But 20 years later, the ribbon rips apart and turns to dust. You see what I mean? Now you say, well, how do you achieve permanent self-control? Well, it's not you that achieves it. It's Jesus working in you that achieves it. That's the difference. When you are constantly communicating with Jesus, then Jesus starts taking over your life and he helps you maintain that self-control. You as a human being cannot maintain that kind of self-control for a long period of time. If you could, you wouldn't need Jesus. That's not the way it works. It's Jesus working in you that helps you maintain self-control for a lengthy period of time. You know what Jesus does? He shows you how unpleasurable some of these activities can be. It's sort of like pagan worship. Jesus shows you how silly these people actually are who practice this pagan worship. Would you honestly bow down to a tree? What did the tree ever do for you? God did things for you, but not that tree. See what I mean? It's sort of like when you consume large amounts of alcohol on a regular basis. Looks fun at first, until you have the hangovers, until you have the drunk driving wrecks. Then it's not so fun. See, God shows you these kind of things so that it makes what you thought was desirable undesirable. And then you want nothing further to do with it. And that's a good thing for you, because it keeps you out of trouble. It puts you in good health, and it keeps you out of jail. See what I mean? So, what did the ancient gladiators, the military men, the modern day football players, and even the entrepreneurs, what did they actually get for their short-term self-control? Was it really worth it? But what can you gain by having Jesus working inside of you and helping you maintain self-control for a lifetime? You can gain an eternal reward. Plus you can obtain health benefits and a good reputation to boot. Those are kind of things that you can gain if you use God's self-control. See the difference? That's the kind of self-control you want to have in your life. Now, self-control should not be confused with anorexia. Okay? Because you could actually take self-control to an extreme, an unhealthy extreme. And it doesn't necessarily have to be about food. It can be about companionship. It can be about all kinds of things. Let me tell you something. This is something that some churches will never tell you, and it's wrong. It's this simple. God cannot place you in a higher paying gainful employment opportunity if you do not have the skills to perform those tasks. In other words, if all you know how to do is sweep a parking lot, that's what you're going to do for the rest of your days. If you want something bigger than that, you have to get yourself an education. And it doesn't just come from the Bible. That's right. Some of these churches tell you that the only thing you really need to know is what's in the Bible. No, the Bible is the center of your life. It's not the only part of your life. That's the difference. There are other things you need to know. How to read, how to write, how to do mathematics. Not just arithmetic, higher level mathematics. We are switching from an industrialized society to an intellectual society. And the smart people will have the jobs. That's a fact. Why are there so few churches discussing this? I don't know. But I'm discussing it here, and I'm telling you, you need those skills. Well, how do you get those skills? Well, most people would just go to school. But what if you can't afford that? Now what do? Well, you're in luck. You can come to this YouTube channel and acquire a lot of those skills that ultimately you can apply in a higher paying gainful employment opportunity. Not only could you acquire such employment, but you could also maintain it and move up through the ranks. you've come to the right place. If you don't have the money for that kind of education, you come here, and I'll help you with that. Okay? Now, just acquiring higher paying gainful employment is not going to solve all your problems. God's the one that solves all your problems. Okay? All this does is it gives you an opportunity to open a few extra doors. Let me tell you something. Without good verbal and analytical skills, you can't read books like this. And books like this can actually improve your life. Well, if you can't read them, how are you going to improve your life? It doesn't work that way. See what I mean? So, if you're needing a higher education, you've come to the right place. But if you need self-control, you need to go directly to the throne of God. And thankfully, Jesus has given you exclusive access to that throne. All you have to do is call upon Him. Now, if your church discusses topics like this, you're in a good church. You need to stay there. But if they refuse to discuss topics like this, you need to walk away. Okay? So, anyway, hopefully you found this video to be very helpful. That was the intent anyway. Why do you maintain self-control on so many things? Because it improves your health. It gives you chances at higher level gainful employment. It gives you a good reputation. And ultimately, it can lead to some good companionship, which is what every Christian needs. God wants you to be in fellowship. But He wants you to be in fellowship with the right people. And people that brush you off are not the right people. Okay? Hopefully you understood all that. If you have any questions or anything like that, go ahead and leave them in the comments below. I will tell you more in a future video. Stay tuned.